day and welcome to the Journalism School. I'm Sheila Coronel. I am the Dean of Academic Affairs. If you can see me behind the podium, I'm Dean of Academic Affairs of the Journalism School here. I took that position just in July. Prior to that, I was director of the Tony Stabile Center for Investigative Journalism. We have a special track in investigative reporting in the MS program, and I am director of that track. I've been here for 7 years now, close to 8 years, about 8 years. And I can tell you that there is no more exciting time to be in journalism or a journalism school than today, when the industry is in a, how do you say it, is in a period of profound change. In fact, the metaphors we use for describing what's happening now are geological metaphors. You know, the changes are tectonic, they're seismic. There is a change in the landscape. The terrain is shifting, the ground is moving beneath our feet. And in that period, you will have a chance, in this time, you will have a chance not just to do journalism, but to shape the future, to define that landscape. So, do you need to be in journalism school to do that? I didn't go to journalism school, but having been here, I came here agnostic about the value of a journalism education, and I'm sure all of you are asking yourselves, why should I spend so much money and devote a year of my life working really hard? You pay us money to make you work really hard to get a journalism education. There are many reasons. One is the newsrooms that we have now have been downsized from what they were in the past. Journalists no longer get, young journalists no longer get the kind of mentoring and attention that they do from editors. In the past, you could enter a newsroom and expect to get training and introduction into the values and skills of journalism. That is no longer being done because the editors now are having to do many things all at the same time in much smaller newsrooms than there used to be. Second, the landscape is changing so fast that many of the people in the newsrooms are themselves trying to figure it out. Here at least you'll have a safe space to experiment, to innovate, to learn about the amazing things that are happening in the world of journalism. Thirdly, there's no better place to do this than New York, which is the media capital of, dare I say, the world. It's a global city, and we are a global school in a global university. This year, close to 40% of our students are from overseas. And by the way, 3/4 of them are women. And that our student body has changed so much. In 2003, only 10% of our students were from overseas. We've had more diverse student body from all over the world, and even from the US. Many of our students are also diverse. So you are here in sort of a melting pot of journalism. You will learn not just from us, your faculty, but from your classmates who come from all over the world, bringing with them different experiences and different perspectives about the future of journalism and how journalism should be shaped. But we are also a 100-year-old school, and we have a tradition. If you look downstairs at the lobby, the immortal words of Joseph Pulitzer are there, and those words basically say, define our mission. We do journalism in the public interest, to inform people, to help them make better decisions about their society and about their future. Despite the tremendous changes that are happening, our core values are the same. And part of what you will learn in your year here are the values that animate us as journalists, that inspire us as teachers, and that form the foundation of our 100-year-old existence. A couple of weeks ago, we had what we called a dog and pony show. And that is when our instructors, our dogs and ponies, present to the student body what they hope to teach them in the spring. We have about 40 courses that we offer in the spring that you can choose from. And I should say, I have just come back from Asia, and I spoke to some journalism schools there. And I've looked at the curricula of other schools all around the US. I don't think there is as much variety and as many interesting courses as you will find here. For example, you can learn here long-form narrative literary journalism, but you can also learn computation and data analysis. You can learn about national security reporting. Our dean, Steve Cole, is teaching a class called Reporting on Armies and Spies. But we also have a class on food journalism, on arts criticism. We also have a class on reporting healthcare. We have classes on reporting on science and the environment. We have a whole array, just the variety of what we offer and the quality of our professors set us apart from most journalism schools in the world. I can say without hesitation that the journalism school is probably the best this is too hard to sell, and I'm a bit embarrassed to say it. But I can say it with great conviction. I try not to lie. I am convinced, and I've been looking at curricula elsewhere, that we have, in terms of variety that we offer to our students, in terms of the menu of options, in terms of what you can get here, we have the best in the world. So it's we have a one-year program. It's a very concentrated program. It's 1 year where you can learn not just the fundamentals of journalism, but also learn to specialize in various aspects of journalism and to follow whatever passion you have. 2 years ago, we removed our concentrations. We used to have concentrations by medium, print, broadcast, and digital media. We've removed those. Instead, we are giving students the choice of what they want to specialize in, if they want to specialize, or they can be as eclectic as possible in their choices. We have, our faculty here, just the panel that we have here, whom Brett will introduce later, will show the variety of options you'll have here. Carrie Donahue is here. She's our director of our radio program. I can say that we have one of the strongest radio programs in the US. We teach radio and long-form radio and radio news reporting. We have international reporting here because we have a variety of international reporting courses. Ann Cooper is here. And those international, we have reporting on conflict. We have reporting on China. We have audience and engagement with an international flavor. I don't want to preempt what the others are going to say, and I think Brett is looking at me to say I should stop and give him the floor. But I'm around. I'm happy to meet you. If you have questions, feel free to get in touch with me. My email address is scoronel, SCORONEL, @columbia.edu. And if you send me an email, I promise to get back to you as quickly as I can with any questions whatsoever about our curriculum, about our faculty, about our programs. If you are torn about, what choices, we have specializations in documentary journalism, in investigative reporting, and soon, starting next year, in data journalism. If our website, for some reason, does not give you the information that you need, I'd be happy to answer them. I can also schedule a phone call with you as you make your decision about whether to come to Columbia or not, or if you have decided to come, which of the different options we offer are most appropriate for you. I'm here, and so is Brett, and there are other staff of our admissions. So please, if you haven't had breakfast, do so, and enjoy the rest of the morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Appreciate it very much. So I will swap this out. Okay. We got it. Okay. Thanks very much. We appreciate your kind words and your welcome there. And welcome to all of you once again to the Columbia Journalism School. We have a great program, I think, today for you. My name's Brett Sayone. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions here for the Journalism School. And we have an esteemed panel of faculty members here first to greet you. If you looked at the agenda within your packets, you will see, hopefully, that we have a good lineup for you today. You also hear from some of our current students, so you can get their perspective and then get some nuts and bolts information as well about student services, career services, admission financial aid information. We're also here to answer your questions, so as we kind of go through the day, if you have some additional questions that you want to have answered, we'll certainly have time to take those as we go through the day. Welcome to those of you as well watching anywhere around the world today via our live stream. We also welcome you to interact with us while you are watching in the comfort of your own home or wherever you may be worldwide. You have the opportunity to chat with us as well, and we'll get your questions answered via those live stream modes. So if you are watching, you can certainly chat with us. If you're on the live stream, if you look to the right-hand side, you will see a little link that says login. You can do that, log in with a Gmail account, and we'll have somebody that will be able to answer your questions. You can ask that way. Or if you're on Twitter, you can interact that way as well. Our Twitter handle is CJS Admissions, and with the hashtag CJS Chat. You'll be able to chat with us either of those ways. So we will certainly be able to interact with you whether you are here in person or wherever you may be around the world. So let's just get started right now with our faculty members that have graciously taken time out of their weekend to be with us today. I would just like to have each of them introduce themselves very quickly, what they are instructors in the program, and then we'll kind of ask them some individual questions. But if they could just introduce themselves, we'll just go right down the row here real quickly.
Should I start?
Sure.
My name is David Haydu. The name is Hungarian, but my grandparents were born in Brooklyn. I teach primarily in the MA program, which I'll explain in a minute, but also in the MS program. I'm a cultural reporter and critic. I was for 12 years until yesterday, the music critic for the New Republic. And yesterday we all quit. We could read about that sort of anywhere right now. A lot of brouhaha over this. And as I said to Huffington Post when I was asked about this, this brouhaha should not be mistaken for a debate over the merits of experiment in journalism, because I felt very strongly that finding new ways to do journalism, new ways to practice journalism, and to inventing new ways to accommodate the changing world that Professor Cornell talked about is not just legitimate, but deeply, deeply important. And it's something that we're dedicated here to. I don't think that the New Republic needed to die so that new modes of journalism practice could live. They could have coexisted, but we'll see how this rolls out. I've written a number of books, and I co-teach the MA program, and I'll come back and discuss that?
Yes, sure.
All righty. I shall return.
I'm just going to request specially that people speak directly into the microphone so the live stream audience can hear what we're saying.
And the voice you may have just heard is our Associate Dean for Admission, Christine Souders. Is anybody here specifically interested in the PhD program? I'll ask that right now. Okay. If you are, actually, you would be in your best interest to just go with Christine, and she'll be able to talk with you specifically. Most of the faculty panel here is primarily for our master's program. So anybody interested in the PhD here in the house, if you'd like to go with Christine, she can meet with you individually and give you specific information about that. Yes, right at this moment you may go, yes, right now, yes. Okay, Anne.
Hi, I'm Ann Cooper. I did go to journalism school quite a long time ago, and it was nothing like like the curriculum here, which is much more intense here and much more useful. It's like we try to simulate a newsroom, newsroom situations as much as possible in all of the work you do and all the classes that you take here. I worked for newspapers and magazines in the U.S. for about 15 years. And then I switched to radio. I worked for National Public Radio. I was their Moscow correspondent in what we often refer to as the best years, the last 5 years of the Soviet Union. And then I went to South Africa and was NPR's correspondent there during the transition to majority rule and democratic elections. So very exciting times as a foreign correspondent. I covered the UN for about a year, not quite as exciting as South Africa and Moscow. And then I went to the Committee to Protect Journalists, where I was executive director for 8 years, and continued, working with journalists all over the world who work in far more difficult conditions than American journalists do. I did a lot more travel to many places that I had never been before. Bangladesh, Nepal, places where there's very good journalism going on in incredibly difficult circumstances. And then when I came here, I was the broadcast director, but I also was obviously very interested in international journalism, so I taught both things. Right now, I teach the basic reporting class that everybody takes in the fall. I teach one of the writing courses right now in the fall, and normally I teach an international class in the spring, but this year I'm taking off from that, and I'm going to tackle one of the audience and engagement classes, which is something new in our curriculum. Last year was the first year that we did it. It's something that, you know, a lot of students say, why do I need to know this? Well, because the world, as Sheila said, is changing under our feet. And, you know, all the years that I was an active journalist, I wrote for the newspaper, the magazine, or for NPR, and, you know, my news media company delivered my stories to the audience, and I didn't have to worry about anything. It's going to be very different for you guys when you leave here. No matter where you're working, you have to look for that audience. You have to find the audience and engage that audience in a way that I never particularly had to worry about. I'm going to be teaching this class with actually a student of mine who graduated 4 years ago, I think, and is at Business Insider, which is, you know, really has pioneered the notion of audience and engagement, and how do you use that to build a following and, you know, build something really important and journalistic. So together we hope that we can combine, you know, her incredible skills at that, you know, with my knowledge and my experience in international journalism, and try to create something new and different that's going to be very helpful to students when they leave.
Hi, I'm Elena Cabral. I am the director of the part-time program. How many of you are here to learn about the part-time program? Oh, great. That's wonderful. I, too, am a graduate of this program and the part-time program. I graduated in '99 and went to work for the Miami Herald. And then I came back to New York and was invited actually by a former professor and a mentor of mine to come back and teach here, which sort of gives you a good idea of the kind of relationship that students and faculty develop here. It's part of the return on your investment that you come into this wonderful environment and you are embraced by professors who really want to see you succeed and do everything they can to help. Since returning to the J School, I've taught a number of different classes, started running the part-time program. I am also a member of the career services team, so I work with a really wonderful group of people who put on years worth of programming for our students, in addition to helping them with their resumes and their cover letters and their interviewing skills. I believe we're even having some mock interview sessions today for our students who want to be able to brush up as they are invited to meet with employers, really starting almost right out of the gate in November. So in addition to that, I am an advisor to one of many affinity groups we have here. This one is a chapter of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. They do, you know, wonderful work all year round. In fact, right now they are engaged in trying to teach the entire school how to speak Spanish so that they will be less intimidated when interviewing Latino residents of New York City. You're welcome. And what else do? I also curate the Columbia Journalist, which is a multimedia showcase of our students' work, and they're doing a lot of great things. I was up the last several nights putting stories up by our students who have been covering the protests all over the city and doing a terrific job of that. So I'm really excited to talk to you about the part-time program when it comes back around to me. In particular, the launch of a new data specialization. So this is a way for students who want to do the program and work in newsrooms to be able to develop the skills that they can put into place, into practice at their jobs, you know, right out of the gate. It's a really exciting time. The part-time program lets you do a lot of everything, investigative and video and photography, and extend it out over a 2-year period. We even have some of our students who are completing their documentary today and showcasing it during the Doc Fest. That's going to be going on the rest of the day, so I invite all of you to to check out these wonderful films.
Hi, I'm Emily Bell. I'm director of the Tow Centre here, which is the full title is the Tow Centre for Digital Journalism, but obviously all journalism now is digital. I teach in the MS and the MA programme. I do a course in the MA programme called, rather depressingly, The Future of Journalism, which is actually not that depressing. It's very interesting to sit with students and say, okay, think up research projects or things that you'd like to build, kind of scope them out, think about why these things might make a difference, because honestly, you stand probably a slightly better chance than most people in newsrooms at the moment of making something which is really effective and will change the future of journalism, which is, back to what Sheila said at the beginning, this is a very exciting time. I was 20 years at The Guardian. I'm still on the board there. I'm still very involved there. But the last 10 years of those were really building the web and digital presence of The Guardian, which went quite well. Some of that was the brilliance of my team. Some of that was also the amazing growth of the internet. The course that I teach in the MS programme is, again, like Anne, the audience and engagement module, which is really about, yes, it's about social media use, yes, it's about understanding data and metrics in the newsroom, but it's kind of understanding how that's actually part of your reporting now, that this is not done by, this shouldn't be done in good news organisations, it's not done by a social media desk that sits somewhere over there while somebody else does the real journalism. This is about how you actually use these tools to report every day. I'm also kind of, I can field some questions about some of the data programs. Sheila was sort of, because she's an excellent journalist who can never lie, she's saying, I think we're the most advanced, etc. I'm going to tell you now, we are absolutely, by far and away, the most advanced journalism school in the world for data practice. I haven't seen anything else which even touches some of the courses that we put on here. We have a dual degree. Is anyone here interested in the dual degree in computer science and journalism? Tends to be a sort of slightly more specialised applicant pool. There are only kind of, when we started it, there's one of those courses in the world. Two of those courses in the world. There's one in Australia, one here. Now there are 3 or 4. It's a really kind of special and unusual programme which teaches students both, it gives them both a master's in computer science and a master's in journalism. What we're finding is that students with these skills are incredibly in very high demand. I heard incidentally, Brett will be cross with me for saying this, I heard incidentally the other day somebody saying, oh, I'm not sure about Columbia, they have like, they seem to be quite data heavy. And that was like, that was great news, because 5 years ago when I arrived, we did not teach a single data course in the school. I don't teach it, but Mark Hansen, who is a world-class statistician and a great kind of, he does amazing things with numbers for kind of public art projects. He teaches, it's an amazing privilege to be able to access a classroom that's run by him. There are not very many people like him in the world. The fact he's applying his skills now to journalism is great. Susan McGregor, who's one of our youngest faculty members, she's just been doing a research project for the Tow Centre on digital security and security practice. Through the Tow Centre, we also run supplementary courses which are not in the curriculum but which are kind of experimental and help people. So that enables the school to keep moving along at the speed at which we need to. We've just finished 6, I think, workshops on digital security for journalists, which is like everything from threat modelling to encoding your email to, and this comes as part of our Journalism After Snowden programme. Again, it's a really amazing set of classes which are not offered in any other journalism school that I'm aware of. We have 2 trainers, Chris and Carol, who are used to working with activists and human rights organisations in really dangerous parts of the world, who really need to be able to protect their sources and protect their communications. If you're going to be a journalist in a modern newsroom today, it doesn't matter whether you're covering City Hall or whether you're in Syria, you need those skills. So, you know, we run both kind of very experimental things which turn into curricula, and we teach throughout the rest of the curriculum. So back to you, Brad.
Okay. Thank you all. Appreciate that. Let's take some of these programs individually. I know many of you watching at home or in the audience here are most particularly interested in maybe a certain program, or maybe you're exploring, deciding what might be the best fit for you. So let's try to maybe clear up a few things and get you some specific information. And we'll start with the Master of Science program, since that's our largest program. And maybe, Anne, you can address first. In maybe 2 minutes or less, if that's humanly possible, can you kind of give it a little description of the Master of Science program? And you mentioned the reporting class where students go out into New York City and learn the trade by doing it. If you could just give a little bit of a description about what the full-time program might entail.
Okay. So if you're in the full-time MS program, you start in early August. We have what we call boot camp, where you're doing audio training and photo training. These are skills that we want you to keep using throughout the year, always taking pictures to go with your stories, learning some audio, which is a great foundation for video, which many of our students go on and take. But as Sheila mentioned, we have an incredible radio program here. There's so many people in public radio now who came out of this school. We're the only school that really trains you for those jobs, and there are definitely jobs in public radio. After boot camp, everybody's in a reporting class, and the emphasis is on just getting you out on the street. You're probably covering a beat. You're expected to find sources, dig up stories, cover breaking news. You got to turn it around really fast, get the story up on the website, or ready for tomorrow morning's newspaper. But you're also always looking for news features. The second half of the semester, you take a writing course, and as Sheila mentioned, there's a great variety there. You may be doing one 3,000-word long-form narrative piece, working on that for 7 weeks. I teach writing for the ear. We do some audio stories and some other, shorter stories. It's not a long-form class, but we really focus on, what's good, clear, crisp, but vivid writing that engages an audience. In the spring, you have many choices. You can do radio workshop, nightly news, city newsroom. These are all working for a regular news organization where you produce full-on broadcasts, or you have a website that you're feeding all the time. You can, do science writing, business writing, writing about food, consumer reporting. Look at the list. It's amazing. It goes on and on. You also take two or three modular courses? Three modular courses. One is everybody takes audience and engagement, which Emily and I both spoke about. You take one class, the writing class is a modular class, and you take a sound and image class. And there you've got a choice of audio, video, data, photo. I don't know what else I'm forgetting, but many choices. And on top of that, there are skills classes. For example, if you want to do a video modular class, you can still do an audio skills class if you're interested in radio and want to deepen those skills as well. So it's a real smorgasbord. And, it gets kind of dizzying, how all the choices that you have and how am I going to make up my mind. It gets a little easier after you get here and dive into the curriculum, start to meet some of the professors, and, we always have students in August who fall in love with radio and, sort of go off on that track. And we have students who come here and just want to do video. And, you can apply especially for the video documentary program. You have to do a third semester when you do your video doc. And as Elena said, they're going to be screening those final projects at the other end of the hall today. So if you have a chance, drop in and take a look there, because some of it's just really fabulous, fabulous work. So there's a lot. It's like a full body exercise for your brain every single day. Do not expect to have weekends off. Do not expect to get a lot of sleep. But, it's a terrific curriculum. Really good.
Yeah, the full-time, it's an intense program, and you certainly are busy, but we understand there are people who might have a family, a job that they are not able to give up to dedicate a full-time schedule to doing the coursework. So as Elena mentioned before, we have the part-time program. So if you could maybe explain how that structure might be a little bit different for those interested students.
Yes, you know, as I had mentioned before, that if you were a person like me who wanted to, really kind of needed to hold on to the job while doing this program, it's a wonderful alternative. And, you know, I was a little selfish too. I had been watching, as an undergraduate actually, that was my dorm right there, and when I was a senior, and I used to sit in front of the building and watch all the cool J School students smoking their cigarettes in front of the school and thinking, I want to be like them. And it took me a while. I had to work, you know, at student loans and things like that. And you know, I also just wanted to figure out what I wanted to do for a while. So it took a bit of thinking and planning and a little tuition help to arrive here. But when I say I was a little selfish, I meant that what I mean by that is doing the part-time program allows you to be in this building, you know, interacting with professors and getting to get involved in everything else that goes on outside of classes, which is quite a lot. Lectures and hackathons and award ceremonies where you get to meet some of the winners and jurors and really, you know, delve into the industry fully over to, and as well as take advantage of all the rights and privileges that student status gives you over a 2-year period, scholarships and fellowships and internships in this media capital. It's a really exciting way to do the program. And I should say that when you do the part-time program, you're very much a full-fledged MS student. In case you're wondering, that the requirements are exactly the same. There really only are a few classes that part-timers take separately. The first being the reporting class, and it's a wonderful way to do it because you start in the summer and you've got this whole building to yourself. You've got the career services team all to yourself. You've got the likes of Emily Bell, hopefully, and Eric Hansen if they don't escape over the summer to learn about what goes on in the data world and in Tau during the summer. But then you come right back into the pool with all of the full-time students and share those classes, which are available at night, on weekends, and during the day. I think sometimes the hardest part for part-timers is choosing which class to take. But a lot of times it's a wonderful thing to know that you get a second shot at courses such as the book writing class, the religion writing class, which takes students abroad once a year to learn about, covering world religions. And so, it is a very unique experience, but it's very much part of the, the program that is 100 years old and, that is the best in the world.
So within the Master of Science program, we have some specialization areas, which are optional, which you could choose as we've mentioned already in investigative journalism, documentary journalism, and then also new starting this year, data journalism. So I think the journalism school has really, as Emily already alluded to, has really made a concerted effort to make this a focus of their curriculum. So if maybe you could talk a little bit about the data, and again, as you mentioned, and then also we have some dual degrees that we would offer with religion, the School of International and Public Affairs, the business school and the law school, and then also, as Emily mentioned, computer science. So if you could maybe talk about the digital aspects, data, and with the dual degree, how that's all kind of incorporated and new here.
I love talking about data journalism because I've been bullying people to do it for 10 years and I can't actually do it myself. So, though I'm actually much better at it now than I was before I started teaching here because we have so many great classes that you sit in on. So essentially we have 2 modules. Well, so if Mark Hansen was here, he would say, we start you right out the gate during boot camp in August, and he does this thing called Data Mondays where you kind of go along and it's casual and occasionally he buys drinks. And you start to learn about the basics of data analysis, and it's really about kind of first of all it's not just about that. So I'm going to say something quite controversial here. So actually no, you can tweet it if you like. That there are a lot of data journalists in newsrooms right now. Not a huge number, and every newsroom is looking for more. A lot of them who are already in newsrooms do a sort of computer-assisted reporting, which is okay, but it's not really kind of cutting-edge practice. So it may well be that people who kind of learnt tools the first time around, there's like a Web 1 type of practice, and now there's Web 2 or Web 3 type of practice. So CAR, which you find in sort of widespread newsrooms, is good. It kind of is effective, but it's not state of the art. State of the art is doing things like being able to install the IPython notebook on your laptop, use R, which is a scripting language, to pull data and sort it, drop it into a story, turn it into visualizations. Scott Klein at ProPublica said earlier this year, every missing skill set you have now as a journalist is a story you're not getting to. It's very difficult. I think lots of people come to journalism school because they want to tell stories and because they think they're good with words. And we're here to tell you that you also have to be good to some extent with numbers. You know, your journalism is going to be held to a higher degree of accountability than it ever has done in the past, simply because you're working in a real-time, transparent environment where you're surrounded by experts on the web who are going to pick your work apart. So we teach kind of basic statistical competency as well. We had, actually, coincidentally, BuzzFeed came in to do a Tauti, which is a sort of a weekly informal gathering we do on Thursday this week, and talked about how BuzzFeed stories go viral. And believe it or not, somebody said, well, how do you actually do this? And they joked, they said, well, we sit in a room of kittens and just think up like how. But actually, it's very sophisticated data science, which applies regression analysis and machine learning to how every single story performs. Every single news organization in the world, whether they are whether they're doing a sort of investigative journalism, in particular, actually this applies to investigative journalism, or if they're growing very quickly, will be looking at what BuzzFeed does and trying to copy it in some way. So, you as journalists have to have an idea of how those stories work, as well as actually kind of being able to sort of dig out numbers. We're moving into a world where the whole world is composed of data. So understanding where it comes from, what its biases are, how you can make it sort of a simple map, which anyone can do, even I can do that, or how you can actually really dig into a set of numbers in a way that allows you to find a story that nobody else has got to, are things that I think are a vital component. So if you're in the MS, you get two flavors of the basic course, Data 1, Data 2, one of which is really introductory. Anyone in this room could take it, feel comfortable with it, and come out with basic competencies. Data 2 is really sort of more advanced. Then in the spring, Susan, Mark, and others offer really quite advanced courses. So there's a computational journalism course based around, again, kind of algorithms and data mining that Mark runs. There are interactive courses. There's news design interactive courses that are run in the summer as well. So you have, I sort of counted them up the other day, something like sort of, I don't know, kind of like almost a dozen opportunities now to take different kinds of data-related courses. And it's actually quite exciting. I mean, it sounds, if you're thinking, but I want to make lovely films, yes, you'll be able to make lovely films. But this does add a dimension to your journalism that really, I think if you're going into the marketplace today, at least having an awareness of that, because, it's not just about what you can do, it's also about, governments, corporations, the technology industry. The world is going to run increasingly on these systems of power, increasingly going to be in the hands of people who have technical understanding and data knowledge, and you can't really report on them if you don't really understand the systems. You'll be at somebody else's mercy. So that's why we think it's central, and that's why we think that sort of people should be learning it. And that's why if you go into the MS program, you will get not just an opportunity to encounter it and try it, but an opportunity to actually get quite far with it. And I'll leave you with an anecdote, which is Scott Klein, the same guy who's he's head of the interactive team at ProPublica. He's a really amazing journalist. He told me an anecdote sort of last week, and he said, you're going to love this. He said, one of our students, who was actually one of my master's thesis students, is working there at the moment in an internship. And she was working with an experienced journalist who had been here a number of years ago. And she was using R, which is a language to sort out a very sort of knotty data set for a big story that they were doing. And the person who was working with her said, where did you learn to do this? And she's saying, I learned, this was at Columbia. This is like, I went to Columbia. She's like, this is, I go, what, Columbia Journalism School? And she's going, yeah, Columbia Journalism School. That's it. And he said, I just thought that was a really great moment because, you know, suddenly we are now, you know, your students are able to sort of teach experienced journalists things which really help them in their work, which is what journalism schools now should be doing, because we can be ahead of the practice rather than behind it.
Okay, thank you. And David, if you could address the MA, which is a much different program than the MS for professional journalists who typically have at least a few years of professional journalism experience. But talk about that a little bit.
The MA program, which I came here to teach, is utterly unique in journalism education, and in fact, utterly unique in higher education. It has no precedent and no parallel. It's essentially a hybrid of professional education and academic study. It's for people who are at a different point in life, at a different point in their personal development, and a different point in their careers than the students who would apply and fit into the MS program. It's for people who already have been practicing journalism, understand how to write, have been practicing journalism successfully, maybe have a few years on a beat and hit a wall because they realize that there's more to know in the specialized subject area that they want to write about with greater depth. So the MA program has 4 areas of concentration: arts and culture, which I co-teach. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Politics, science, and business and finance. And what we do in these programs is teach specialized knowledge so that you can write with authority on these subject areas. Each one of the seminars is co-taught by 2 professors. Arts and culture is co-taught by me and Elisa Solomon, who's a longtime theater critic for The Village Voice and author of a brilliant new book called Miracle of Miracles about the cultural history of Fiddler on the Roof. The politics concentration is co-taught by our last dean, Nick Lemon, and Xandro Stila, who covers international politics for The New Yorker. Our business concentration is co-taught by James Stewart, who's a regular business columnist for The New York Times, and Sylvia Nasser, who wrote A Beautiful Mind, you may know. And our science concentration is co-taught by Marguerite Holloway, who also wrote a brilliant book last year, and Jonathan Weiner, a Pulitzer Prize winner. So those are the 4 concentrations. I'll give you an idea of how they work, and I'll use arts and culture as an example. In the fall, we cover foundational material. We cover arts theory. What does it mean to be an artist? What is the relationship between artists and society? We deal with copyright law and other foundational aspects of the arts. And then in the spring, we move on to arts and practice, and we deal with the art marketplace, arts policy, art and government, and such. About 30 to 40% of the seminars are co-taught with other professors here at Columbia, or leading figures in the arts, or other practitioners in arts journalism. I'll give you a few examples. We do a unit in the fall on anthropological conceptions of the arts. And we bring in a leading anthropologist from Columbia named Paige West, who's like one of the world's great anthropologists. When we do theory, I could teach theory, I'm fine at that, but we have Andreas Huyssen, who's one of the leading theorists in the world here, so we bring Andreas in. When we cover dance, we bring in Lynn Garofalo, who teaches dance at Barnard. We were dealing with funding in a unit, so I brought in Maria Schneider, who was an innovator in crowdsourcing in the creation of music. And if you're fans of David Bowie, she co-wrote the most recent David Bowie song, and it's her orchestra on the song. It just came out last week. Maria Schneider is a regular in this class. And then we have journalists come in as well to talk about practice. That's the concentration. It's the program that I wish I had taken. It took me 10 years of struggling, maybe probably longer, in the field and reading at nights and learning slowly to begin to learn some of what we teach our students here. I think it has enormous value. I could give you a quick example. I wrote at one point very naively about a cultural event that took place in 1965 in American popular music when an artist you may have heard of named Bob Dylan gave a performance at the Newport Folk Festival that was controversial. And the standard narrative of that event is that a riot ensued. Well, when I was reporting this, and I was researching this event for a book I was writing, and I found that the contemporary events of the event didn't describe a riot at all. There actually was no riot. But in the collective consciousness, the notion of a riot has coalesced. So when I covered this, I wrote about it very naively, and I said, well, we typically believe that there was a riot then, but there was not. I know now why this narrative has the power that it does. I know now that there's a series of precedents for that there was a genuine riot over a Victor Hugo work called Hernani. I know why that was. I know that there was a genuine riot over Rite of Spring 100 years ago when Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, when it was first performed. And I understand how those performances are thought of as acts of apostasy or cultural insurgency, and how they're interpreted as in terms of generational conflict. And why these events turn into narratives and then turn into tropes and replicate themselves, but in different forms to fit their times. Now, we cover tropes and narratives in a class really thoroughly, so that the next time one of the members of our class go out and encounter something like that, they really understand it. They understand the traditions, they understand the theories, they understand the ideas that surround things like that and many other things. Our students will walk out understanding the difference between homage and allusion and pastiche and plagiarism and copyright infringement, and not conflate them or mix them up or make glib, easy assertions that don't have depth and authority. So we're here to help you write with more depth and authority, and I think that has enormous value because they're scarce, and scarcity is a measure of value. That's the MA program.
So now you've got a little snapshot of each of our programs, and hopefully that got you thinking and hopefully generated some questions. So I would open up the floor if you have any questions for our faculty. There is a microphone right in the center of the aisle there. If you would want to just go around the back, step up to the mic, speak into the mic, maybe say your name and what question you may have. Again, if you're on the live stream, you can chat via the live stream, or if you're on Twitter, at CJS Admissions with the hashtag CJSChat. So again, if you have questions, feel free to go to the back of the room and just step up to the mic, and we have one already, so feel free to go right ahead, sir.
Okay, good morning. My name is Pedro Perez Ortiz. I'm 72 years old. I'm an older American. I'm a gay American. I'm a black American. I'm a Puerto Rican American. I'm a Hispanic American. So all that miriñaque, I hope you can teach me something. My
You can
question
teach us more
is,
than we
I
think we can
follow.
teach you.
My question is, I've been following the program that you have on journalism after Snowden and the writers, and my question is, in terms of investigative report, do you train or give the opportunity to people to deal with these persons? I mean, like the ones that came here for the Pulitzer, like David Phillips, who's in New York Times, not only in the issue of how to do it, but the fact that a woman, a minority person of color in the global economy, coming from different countries and being aware of the prejudices in this country, how can anybody defend himself legally? Because we know the whole present evolution of investigative reporter. My concern is in terms of the legality and the issue of security, which through the whole After Snowden program has not been discussed or brought even to be defined.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about investigative and the importance and things that we do through here and related to that? Anyone who wants to take that?
I mean, Sheila would be the person to talk about that. Well, in the After Snowden program, which is actually a research track that we're running through the Tower Centre, which has started last January, one of the outcomes of that is, as I say, kind of actually developing curricula which the students this year have experienced, but hopefully we will build it into how we teach. So we have the security track on that, but also kind of like more broadly, I mean, if you're one of the reasons that we looked at journalism after Snowden was because you know, kind of like everything now from source protection to how stories arrive, which is in, you know, thumb drives full of unsorted documents, which could be vast. So, you know, nobody actually knows how many documents Snowden has, but it's probably, well, it is in the hundreds of thousands. How do you even begin to report a story like that? The investigative track in Stabile has been teaching techniques both for kind of protecting sources, but also for mining data out of large and complicated, you know, sets for a long time. That's now sort of more broadly applicable in the school. It's worth saying that, you know, investigative journalism is one of the key planks at Columbia. It's kind of, and it's not, it doesn't just sit in one class. It's like in every single course that you do, you know, whether it's Anne's course or, as David was saying, you know, kind of actually sort of digging into like who really rioted when. You know, it's a kind of, it's a sort of a key part of all reporting. But so the techniques around, you know, as I say, security, finding, discovery, even the sort of, you know, and the legal implications now. You know, we deal with an international school. 35% of our students are international. So, you know, we don't teach this just from the perspective of, oh, isn't it great that we're all sitting kind of protected by the First Amendment? Because we're well aware that our students, you know, I come from somewhere which is definitely not protected by the First Amendment, and many of our faculty actually kind of, you know, come from or have reported in places which are incredibly dangerous now for journalists. So that's, you know, those are things that we don't kind of think about as an afterthought. Those are absolutely central to how we think about teaching reporting right across the board. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, we have about 5 minutes, so I'll ask anybody who's going to ask a question to be as brief as possible, and then the faculty members as brief as possible so we can get through as many as we can. So go ahead.
Good morning. I'll be as brief as possible. I have 2 questions. One is practical and logistical. The second is maybe a little more broad. I'm a working reporter in New York City, and I've been using Twitter since it was Odeo and in beta. And I have a great interest in radio as well, and was mentored by some great radio people. So my first question is, what are the critical factors in determining should I go down a social data path or down a broadcast, more traditional path? Both of those things are dear to my heart, and making that type of decision will really be based on a lot of the information you shared today. The second is, I'm a working reporter, so I'm not, you know, I'm not rich, I'm not broke, but I don't have a ton of money, and I'd like to know where I can apply for financial aid and how. I haven't been a student for a long time, and I don't really know how to go about getting financial aid. So thank you for your questions. I'll sit. Or your answers.
We'll get to the financial aid part. So that will be coming later for sure. And somebody want to address the other part of that, though?
Yeah, I think, you know, in terms of radio versus social media, that's a big question, and it's something that, you know, I don't want to give you a glib answer. So I'd be happy to talk with you, as would other faculty members. I think, you know, when you come here, you have to make some choices before you start, but really you're able to, you know, be here and start your coursework and then make some decisions of which classes. So I think it gives you a little bit of time to talk to people more, explore some classes, and see what you want. I mean, you know, August, as I mentioned, we have boot camp, and there is audio training then. That's a good chance to, you know, talk with the audio adjuncts, all of whom come out of public radio, you know, what you want to do, what would be the best way of pursuing that. So I don't think it's something that you need to resolve before you come here necessarily.
Good morning. Well, I'm a little bit nervous. It's imposing to be here. Laura Calzada. Sorry. I'm from Barcelona, Catalonia. I'm 26 years old. I'm in New York since 1 year. My English is not perfect, and this is a handicap. So I'm a writer. I write in Catalan and Spanish, quite okay. And my question is really clear. Well, now I'm undertaking an internship on Latino USA on NPR. It's amazing. The other day I was in the Bronx reporting for ¿cómo se llama este momento? Sorry, estoy nerviosa. And botanical gardens. It was amazing. About home remedies and plants and things. Doing radio in New York. So I'm so happy. It's my dream. It's my mission. So very happy. But studying at Columbia has been my dream since I was studying politics there in Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona, studying journalism. And so I have experience doing journalism, radios, it's my passion, and writing. I write from the arts, so David is basically, hi David. David is basically the person that I read, because arts and culture are my thing. But MA or MS, so I have experience. Since I finished my graduate in politics, I've been working as a journalist. But I'm not, like, my English is not perfect.
So you're asking, what's the best one to choose?
So yes, because
Okay.
I guess if I apply for MS, maybe, only maybe, I can have a possibility to get in. If I apply for the MA, you, David, you stress a lot the thing that you teach how to write very, like, good. I'm not gonna practice in English, I think, because I can do radio, I can do video, but writing in English, I'm gonna try it, of course, and I'm gonna work hard to write very good in English, but for my future ahead, I'm gonna work in Catalonia, probably.
What would you tell David, a student like that?
All of the assignments in the MA program are journalistic. So we study theory, ideas, practice, issues, controversies, and then apply them to journalism practice. But we don't teach journalism skills. So if you'd like to come to improve your skills, I think maybe the MS is probably for you. I'd have to talk to you some more, take a look at some of your work, and see and I could maybe help you we could talk about it, and I might be able to help.
Thank you, David.
Okay, we have time for one more. Are the students here for the student panel? Are they in the room? Okay. Hang tight, we'll get to you. And then one more question for the faculty.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I'm from Brooklyn. I have a question about the MS program and kind of how much is fieldwork percentage-wise that you're really out there? And then also based on when you are, is it assignment-based, or how much is also kind of your own personal interest? And that's really...
Okay. Well, in the reporting class, it's 4 days a week. You're in the classroom probably 1.5 days, and the rest of that time you're expected to be out covering your beat, and that's a combination of things. You pick a beat, or it's assigned to you, you go out and you explore it, start talking to people. You'll probably write a beat report, about the neighborhood or the subject or whatever it is that you're covering, and talk about the sources that you have found, and start pitching story ideas right away. So sometimes you may have what we call a daybook assignment, where it's, okay, you got to go cover this press conference. Starts at 9 o'clock at City Hall this morning, and your story's due at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's just, you go out, you do it, you turn it around fast. But a lot of the time it's on you. You're the one who's out there. You've got to show that you can generate ideas, that you can figure out, what's news, or, what's an interesting trend or development that I can develop more with some deeper reporting. But, I'd say at least half the time you're out reporting, finding the stories, finding your own sources, and we really want you to dive deep on a lot of stories. One thing that actually hasn't come up yet is the master's project. Everybody does a master's project on top of all the other courses that we've been talking about. And the master's is, you start in October, and it's due at the end of spring break, which is around mid-March. So that's an in-depth project that everybody has to do. You've got several months. You've got an advisor you're working with. If you do it for print, it's a 5,000-word, long-form piece. There are other options. You can do a video hybrid, audio hybrid, photo hybrid, where you're doing, a text story, but, visuals to go along with it. And I guess we probably have data hybrid now. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Anyway, lots of options. That's changed tremendously in the last few years as we've seen the need to develop more multimedia skills. So that's part of the whole master's system too.
Yeah, I was just going to say that actually in audience and engagement, one of the things that certainly in my class, and I think most of the sections do, is I say what you do is completely down to you. So it sounds like you're going to be using social media tools, but actually what you do is you decide as a group. It's like an entrepreneurial, sort of mini entrepreneurial journalism course. What is the thing that you want to cover? What's the platform you want to use? What's the technologies? Is it going to be kind of like on an Instagram account? Is it going to be kind of something you build from scratch? You have to make all of those decisions yourself. So it's a mix of that, and the students are always like, "Aren't you going to assign us something?" And I go, "No, this lives or dies by how good your journalism is," which always goes down very well. But there are sort of all flavours of that. But the core of every course really is, you must either be picking up the phone, but preferably being out there and meeting people. Kind of all of these tools are about how you can get to kind of real reporting. And so, I've never heard a student complain yet that they are not spending enough time reporting.
Okay, we will now transition to give you a student perspective, but if you'd like to please thank our faculty members for sharing their views with you. Thank you all. Give us 60 seconds, we'll do a little swap, and we'll be right back with you in 60 seconds. And any of the students that are here for the panel, please come on up.
Gabriel? You're about to graduate?
No, I graduate in May.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
How about you?
Part-time.
Oh, okay. How long does it take? Are you MA or?
She
I'm
may speak
MS.
from here or she may start.
The year after this one.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a 2-year program.
It's
So
2
you
years.
can do a year and a half. You can try to accelerate, but it's kind of like, just do it 2 years.
Right.
Because I work full-time, so
Where do you work?
at the New York Times upfront, so it's with Scholastic and the New York Times.
Okay, we'll go ahead and now we will get started with the student portion of the event, where you can get their perspectives and be able to kind of get some insight into what it's like to be a student. Again, for the faculty panel that was just up here, if you would like to contact them directly, you can go to our website and there'll be an area there. You just click on faculty and all of their information, their areas, some description, and their email is there. So if you'd like to contact them and ask them some more questions about their particular programs, you can do that via the website and contact them directly. You're more than welcome to do that. But I'd like to welcome the students that we have here. I would, again, just like them to take a moment to introduce themselves, where they're from, and what program they're in.
Hi, my name is Kate. I'm from Connecticut, and I'm in the MA Business and Economics program. And my name is Gabriel Charles Tyler. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm in the part-time MS program.
Okay. You've not been here all that long, correct? You started both in the fall and in August, or this is your second? Go ahead, Gabriel.
I started in June.
You would, yeah, and during the part-time, you would have started a little bit earlier. Just give a little bit of a description as to what it's been like so far. Anything unexpected? And, we've heard some of the faculty talk about, the programs and what it's been like and reporting and actually being a student, what it takes to go through and what they expect. So just in a few words, in a moment or two, what's it been like for you to be in this, at least for these several months to this point?
Well, so I'm from Chicago, so I'm from a large city, and as you know, New York is a very big city. Some people are intimidated by that, but I think I kind of had, the head start on that. But it's been interesting. You have to find stories, but I think that my challenge to you guys, and this is always my challenge to myself, is to have a diverse portfolio, meaning that although I am interested in certain forms of journalism or I'm interested in certain topics, I always try to challenge myself that if I did one story about this, let me do another story about that. Let me try to get different topics so that when I leave here or while I'm in the program, I can really harness different skills. So I think that that's kind of been where I am at the current point.
I've really enjoyed the program so far. For me, it was more of a transition than I expected to go from, I worked at a newspaper for 4 years before I started here, and I forgot how much harder school is than working because it never stops when you're in school. And in the MA program, you're writing fewer stories, but you're studying all the time and you're reading all the time.
Okay, you move the mic a little bit closer too, if you would, just so everybody that's watching at home and here can hear you clearly. Thanks.
Sure. So it's just a very rigorous course load that you definitely need to be prepared for, but I've learned a lot so far.
Okay, and sure, if you, go right ahead and introduce yourself in the program you're in. You might want to move the mic a little bit closer so it picks up everything. Okay, thanks.
Hi. Sorry, so I was in the other room, so I was like sitting down and waiting for my time, and then yeah. So I'm in the MS program. My name is Ariane Alcorta. I'm from Venezuela. I'm doing the 1-year program, so it's a little bit more intense than the MA where you have like two years. Like she says, it never stops. For the MS program, we don't have to study as much because for the MA you have the opportunity to have to study, like focus in business and international relations and stuff like that. In journalism, it's just like, in the MS program, you can write about whatever you want and you don't specialize in a certain thing per se. But you need to be aware that this is a program where you're gonna, it emphasizes in writing. So you're gonna be strengthening your writing abilities, and more so than any other, skill in the program. You also will have the opportunity to do video, audio, photography, which is really, really good as well. And if you would like, to also have like stronger skills in those areas, you'll also have the opportunity in that. But it's a really, really demanding program. So it, like she says, it never stops, so you need to be prepared for that.
What would you tell anybody sitting in the audience or maybe watching at home that's considering if they should do this, if this is going to be the right fit for them? Maybe apprehensive, maybe unsure of what they might be getting into a year from now, where you might have been in their place at that time. What would you tell them? What advice would you give them in terms of taking the step and saying, yes, I want to do this? Why should they do that, I guess, is the question. Maybe from the frame point of what you've gotten out of it, at least to this point, and what you've been exposed to?
Well, for me, what I've been exercising the most is the ability of reporting, of researching, of not just saying what people tells me or not accepting what people tells me. It forces me to verify, to look for other sources, to dig in, which is basically what everyone in like every news corporation is looking at. So that basically for me is like one of the most important things in this program, that it focuses more on investigative journalism, even though your class may not be about investigative journalism, but all your professors will encourage you to, dig in further, go, far beyond any other of your expectations, because you may end up with this big story that you're like, oh my God, it's perfect, and then you turn it into your professor, and then they're gonna be like, oh, so what? So what's the newsy part? I don't. Okay, this may be really really interesting, but what's new? Like maybe this part I did know of, but you need to, maybe get the other side, because sometimes you get so involved with the subject, with the source, like, oh my God, I want to tell this story, and then your professors would go like, well, and what's the other side? Have you gotten the other side of the organization if you're attacking some specific problem? So, and sometimes you have to do that in a week. So you only have a week to get your source, get them to talk. Sometimes you're gonna get the answers of, oh my God, get the hell out of here, fuck you, blah blah. So you need to be prepared for that. That's not much motivating, but once you get the product done, and once you read it, or once you see it, if it's video, or you hear it if it's audio, or you see it if it's photography, it's very rewarding, and you're gonna be very thankful for professors pushing you. That's how I see it.
What about within the MA then, since it's a much different program than the MS?
Sure. I think at the MA, the biggest advantage is you're in New York, reporting in New York, which is where everything happens, and the opportunity to learn from experts. My seminar professor right now is Sylvia Nasser, who wrote A Beautiful Mind, and she's just an amazing economist and business journalist, so I've learned a lot working with her. And I think Columbia has a very robust career services department, and I feel that I probably have I'm better positioned here than when I was at my paper in Connecticut, hopefully to find a job in New York.
And then what about going part-time? And as you mentioned, how, again, Elena just talked a little bit about the structure and what students can expect, but now that you are actually doing it, what would you say from the student perspective on how you're balancing everything that you have going on?
So actually, when I was going to apply to Columbia, I actually wanted to do the full-time program, and I think I did part-time by mistake, but I'm actually happy that I did part-time, because I have friends in the full-time, and they always look very stressed out. But I can talk about the career services that Columbia has, because when I moved to New York, I did not have a job, and I was looking for somewhere to live. And I actually got a job. I work at the New York Times up front. So it's with Scholastic and the New York Times. It's a high school news magazine. And I actually got that job from something that Elena sent an email about. And so I think that for me, it's always trying to balance having a social life, because I am younger, so I actually want to have fun. But
there's no social life in here, by the way.
So, trying to have a social life, but then also trying to work full time, and then also trying to do school. So I think that in this program, it is a challenge, not only because you're flexing those muscles being a journalist, but you're also flexing those muscles and prioritizing your own personal life. So am I gonna be working? I need to do this story. You find a way to make it all work for you. So I will just tell you guys that there is no formula. People always ask me, like, what's the formula? How do you do it? And it's kind of like there is no formula. I had to learn what were my strengths and what I needed to work on for myself.
Okay. To keep as much interactive as we can, if anybody has any questions for any of the students, feel free to head on back to the microphone and we'll get you. In the meantime, what are you, any three of you, looking forward now, perhaps finishing, being a one-year program, if you're going part-time with the MA, anything that might be finishing up come the spring, what do you anticipate, or what maybe you're looking most forward to in your remaining months?
Well, for the full-time MS program, we need to complete our master's thesis by March, and we are, starting it from now, so I'm a little nervous about that. So I just want to get that done, and since I'm an international student, I have it a little bit harder because I want to stay here working in the United States. So there's a lot of process that I need to be completing this, next semester. Getting something called the OPT, which allows you to work here for a year only, and that year will allow you to prove to your, how do you call it? To your job that you're actually worth it, so that they can hire you and give you a working visa. So that's actually what I'm facing right now.
Okay. We have several people that have stepped up for questions. So again, I'll just ask you to try to be as brief as possible so we can get as many of you through as we can. So go ahead.
Good morning. It seems that everyone in our generation now, everyone has a blog, and everyone with any kind of proclivity for writing fancies themselves a cultural journalist. Everybody's commenting on everything. My question is, at what point are you able to say, to declare about yourself, I am now an authority on this, I can now speak definitively on this topic? Was it a crystallizing moment in your classes? Did you go into the program already knowing, okay, I'm a better writer than everyone else, or I have more of authority? It just seems that it becomes so diluted, and those of us who our entire lives have really had a passion for writing, at what point can you say, okay, I'm an authority, I can now write about this, as opposed to all the other millions, all of our friends who have blogs, everyone who's constantly commenting and giving their long Facebook comments about a topic and chiming in about things. When does that moment happen for you? Was it an exercise of the ego? Was it, when did that happen exactly?
Yeah, who wants to take that one? Go.
So I'll tread lightly with this one, but I think that, in my opinion, and from being at Columbia, I have realized that journalism is about not being an authoritative voice about whatever you're covering. Most journalists don't actually know. I mean, you have a few people who specialize in specific topics. They may not know actually what they're writing about, but they may have a general idea. But I think that that's what's most interesting about the field, is that you can know zero about something and report the mess out of it, and find an expert and go over here and learn about this and interview this person and bring all those different voices together comprehensively so that you're able to present that idea to readers. So I think that it's not even about having an authoritative voice. I think that this generation is kind of misled in thinking that, oh, now I'm Gabriel and I can talk about ABC. Nobody cares what I can talk about. They care that I'm able to talk to the person who doesn't know about it.
Go ahead, next question.
Hi. Okay. I have two questions. So the first, so all of you took slightly different, I'm guessing, I know, Kate, you took time off between college and coming to the journalism school, and I believe the two of you came straight.
I came straight from the University of Miami. Like, I never really worked per se.
Okay.
I jumped straight from.
Okay, so I'm curious about your perspectives on going straight to journalism school after college versus taking time off. Like, what do you think are the pros and cons of each? And also, like, if you're gonna take time off between college and coming to journalism school, like, what do you think you should be like? I guess, like, what should you do during? What do you think you should? Or either way, I guess, like, what do you think you should be expecting, or what do you think should be the, I don't know, like, the big question you come in with, or kind of like, how do you prepare yourself for that psychologically and mentally? And my other question is, so you say there's not much of a social life, but I'm I guess, like, as part of the journalism experience, but, like, not specifically a social life out, but I'm curious about how much, like, how collaborative is the experience? Do you think it's more of independent work? Is there a lot of group work involved, and kind of, or does it vary depending on your program, and so on? Thank you.
Okay. Could one of you talk about your transition, and whether coming directly from here, and then one other of you take what the classroom experience has been like?
Well, as I said, I came directly from college, so I never really worked at a news station. And I thought, like, at the beginning when I was applying, that I was like, oh my God, they're not gonna accept me because I've never, like, been paid per se for what I'm saying. Every work I've done is voluntary. It's voluntary, but I think it's actually, well, for me, I've not experienced otherwise, but it's actually better because I don't think I would have done it otherwise. Like if I would have started working for, let's say, 2 years, I don't think I would have gone back to studying. But then again, there's lots of people who have, had like 4 or 5 years of experience and then they come back. But I think I don't know, like I love it. I love the, just jumping right ahead. I already had, like, even though I hadn't worked before, I felt like I had a lot of experience because I had done a lot of internships, a lot of voluntary work at college. So this is just like, preparing me for the bigger job that is ahead for me. So I don't regret it at all.
I just want to say quickly that I think in the MA program, at least in the business and economics journalism, I would be at a huge disadvantage if I hadn't worked before I started here, because I think the MA, much more so than the MS, really assumes that you have experience writing stories regularly, being able to find stories, the way stories are put together, and it focuses much more on studying the topic, so studying economics or politics or art or science. So, and for me, I think I'm getting a lot more out of it because from working, I knew what I wanted to improve on. So, but I think that is very different between the MA and the MS program. In terms of collaboration, I think that's also probably different. The MA, there's probably a little bit less collaboration. You're writing a lot, reading a lot, whereas you do some group work and you become very close with the people in your individual concentration. But I think in the MS you do more projects together, right?
Yes, well, not really. It's also it's really individual. Every project is individual. What we may do is like in some classes we just discuss our ideas in class. So we just help each other. Like, hey, so you should contact this person. You should, but we never work on a story together. Oh, and I also want to add that working doesn't mean like, because I'm getting paid, I'm working, and if I'm not getting paid, that's not working. It doesn't matter. Like the important thing is gaining experience. Either it's voluntary or like, I don't know, you want to do it yourself, or, doing internships and then just working for them without getting paid. That counts as a job. You don't have to, get hired to say that you had a job in journalism to get to this program.
We have time for maybe 1 or 2 more, and then hopefully the students will be able to stay and provide their contact information. So we'll make sure that we do get all of your questions addressed in some fashion. But go ahead.
Hi, my name is Anika. It seems as though each of you have journalism experience or had journalism experience prior to attending Columbia. How has your time here affected your career aspirations and your perspective on the field? And also, where do you see yourself upon graduation? Like, when you finish, where do you see yourself being?
Well, so I did have journalism experience. I got my undergraduate degree in journalism, and I've been writing since high school, and I wrote throughout college, and I did freelance before I came to Columbia. And I think that I wouldn't say that journalism experience is required. There have been a lot of people in my classes who didn't have journalism experience, but I think what is required is that you take the initiative to learn what you do not know outside of the classroom. I think that that is what will set you apart. And for me, I'm thinking about getting my PhD in mass communications, and I'm also thinking about being a professor. So I'm actually starting to look at taking a few tests so I can be a high school teacher next year, and then use that and then do my PhD and then start teaching. So I'm trying to figure all that out right now.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Gabriel, my question is for you. I recently talked to a graduate from the PT program who just graduated in May. He was telling me that part-time students get first dibs on choosing classes because of constraints on schedules. Can you talk about how easy it's been for you to schedule throughout this year?
Well, I think this is just my life. Whenever I schedule something, I just get it. So I don't know if it's I don't know if it's me, if I have good luck. But I did hear something about that, which I didn't even know, that part-time students, we start doing our scheduling at 9:30, and I think full-time students get it at 10.
Yeah.
But that was something I didn't know before. I just thought maybe they had like a special Gabriel time. But thank you for letting me know that's not the case. But it's been pretty easy. I think that what I usually do when I look at the list of classes, I look at the professors who are teaching the classes. They have links where you can look at their bios so you can see what the professor has done prior to the class. And then they have like a full list that explains the class. And then sometimes I would reach out to people who I know had graduated from the program and ask them, did they have this teacher? Did they have this class? What classes were they interested in? So I think that it's the registration process here, in my opinion, is fairly easy, and I think that it's fair, but I don't know how it is for full-time students.
We try to be as fair as
different.
possible. Okay, well, one more quick question, and then we'll again make another transition. Go ahead.
I just had a quick question for Gabriel. I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the requirements for the thesis with the part-time program and just what's required for that final project.
Okay, so it's the same thing as the full-time, and we don't start on ours for the part-time until our second summer, but it's the same thing. So if it's a print story, it's about 5,000 words, and they have the different hybrids. But I think that it is interesting to come with an idea, but I think that you will start getting more ideas as you go through the program. So I think now I came with like 6 different ideas of what I wanted to do, and now that has completely changed. So I think that you just have to have an open mind to what ideas may present themselves. But I think that this is the last thing I just want to say really quick to you all. I've watched some of these videos and I've like seen stuff from other schools, and people always tell you like, oh, I was sitting where you were last year. And I mean, I believe that, but I can honestly tell you I wasn't sitting here last year because honestly, I did not think that I would get into Columbia. When I was applying last year, I was like, well, why would they want me? And I think that you guys have a one-up, that you're actually sitting here and you're actually seeking the information. And so I think that as you're applying, just make sure that you have a diverse portfolio and make sure that you look over your portfolio. That was one thing that I did. I had 3 teachers or people who I looked up to look at all of my samples and look at every essay that I wrote, everything that I did. I was like, Mom, look at this. This teacher, look at that. So I think that that is what is going to set you apart.
Okay, are you 3 able to stay for a little bit? Okay, so if any of you who were not able to get your questions answered want to, after we're done, speak with them individually, they're very gracious to stay. And if you also want to provide an email address real fast, if you don't mind, where any prospective students might be able to email you if they can't stay with their questions, if you want to do that.
Okay, so my email is actually my name @alcorta.com. So it's fairly easy. Ariane@alcorta.com.
My email is kck2131@columbia.edu.
I'll tell you after. My name is kind of long, but it's GabrielCharlesTyler@gmail.com. So just put a Charles here in Gmail.
So after our next couple of brief sessions, again, just stay in this room, and anybody who wants to speak with them individually, thanks for taking the time to do that. And thank you for right now for sharing your insights. And I'll ask Anusha from our Career Services office to come up, and she'll speak with you next.
Good morning, everyone. Let's get started. I'm Anusha Srivastav, Assistant Director in Career Services at the Graduate School of Journalism. As they're getting set up, they're basically going to show you a role of where our recent graduates have landed. That'll play in the background while I talk to you about who we are, what we do for you, and leave a little bit of time at the end for questions. So first of all, about myself, I'm a graduate of the school. I graduated from here in 2002. I was in the MS program. There was no MA program at the time. I already had about 6 years of business journalism experience. I used to work for a BBC World program called India Business Report that was broadcast all over Europe and Asia. I moved here and came to the school because I had always wanted to be at Columbia J School. And I worked, after I graduated from here, I worked at the Globe and Mail in Toronto, I worked at 2 papers in Connecticut, and the last 6 years I worked at Dow Jones and the Wall Street Journal. I covered credit markets during the credit crisis, so I covered asset-backed securities, I covered money market funds, I covered commercial paper. I also wrote a blog called The Juggle about balancing life and work. I came to the school in January of 2013, so it's been almost 2 years since I've been here. It's been absolutely fabulous. I'm part of a team that has 2 other grads. You already met Elena earlier today, and Isabella Ritkowski is a graduate from last year. Our dean, Julie Hartenstein, was a producer with ABC News for over 20 years before she came and taught here and has now joined Career Services a couple of years ago. Same with Gina Boubion, who was a reporter for many years in California, Minnesota, and Philadelphia. She worked at NYU and then moved to the J School. The reason I talk to you a little bit about our team in detail is to tell you that we are all journalists. We've all worked as journalists in newsrooms all over the country and abroad before we joined Career Services. So when we talk to you, we are talking to you as people who have been in newsrooms that you want to join, and we can help you connect with those newsrooms and others, right? I hope that this morning you've understood that journalism is not dying. There is a lot to be done. It's a very great career because you get to meet a lot of interesting people, you get to write fabulous stories. The medium might have changed. Not all of you will want to be in print. You probably want to be digital journalists or broadcast. And we are here to tell you that there are lots of opportunities all across in all these spheres. We have people in different newsrooms throughout the country and the world. We are connected with all of them. So you have that resource available. We have people in legacy newsrooms at the Wall Street Journal, at Reuters, at AP, at Bloomberg, and we also have them at the newer places and the places that you hear of more frequently, probably, Mashable, BuzzFeed, Vox.com, Vocative, Verge, and so on. I'd be happy to stay and chat with you more about the places where our grads have landed, but you can see some of it already on that scroll behind you. We hear every day from our grads all over the country and the world about the jobs that they're doing at different places. They update us with their latest contact information, not as regularly as we would hope, but we do have a sense of where they are and what they're doing. We can talk a little bit more about that if you want to know. To get some sense of where our grads have landed, another way of doing it is to go on LinkedIn and do a search on Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism and Greater New York area or any area that you want to work in and see where they are and what they are doing. We can talk about different internships that we have as well. We have about 35 exclusive internships in different newsrooms, including at the Wall Street Journal, at BBC, at ABC News, at Al Jazeera, at Clarín in Buenos Aires, at La Stampa in Turin, Italy, and one of our grads last year was at the Global Post. We have someone at the Environment and Energy, which are publishers of Climate Wire and Green Wire in Washington, D.C. So I'm rattling off these names just to give you some sense of the breadth of the internships, exclusive internships that we have. So when I say an exclusive internship, what I mean is that at least one Columbia student will be at that newsroom, but it's not restricted to that one person. For instance, the exclusive internship with the Wall Street Journal, we have one exclusive, which is for 13 weeks. But last year, they took about 8 other students that were there for 10 weeks. So that's to give you a sense of that. last year's graduating class was about 75% employed by graduation day, and that is the figure for about the same in 2013 and 2012. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the methodology of defining what that means. It means that these students, around the time of graduation, which is at the end of May, had either lined up a job or an internship or established a freelance career. So when you graduate, you fill out a survey and you tell us what you're doing. And you specify, got the exclusive Wall Street Journal internship, or you say, got an internship at BuzzFeed. Another student could write, got a job at this newspaper. And yet another student would say, I'm going to freelance, and then we check back with them to see, have you actually got any assignments? You don't just write freelance and we accept that you're freelancing. We want to know that you actually have some work lined up and you're actually getting stories published. So when you're making your comparisons, do find out how people are defining employment after graduation. We do this survey of, a few days around graduation, and then later we try and check back with students. It is difficult to get information 6 months to a year out because a lot of students won't respond. But like I said, anecdotally, we will hear back from a lot of students who will either connect with us after their internship is over and they want to move on to something else, or if they're looking for help, if they're looking for jobs. How many of you are international students or would be international students? Okay, so quite a few. Our international students perform quite well. About 73% of them had lined up something by graduation day. However, there is a huge caveat, and that is you need to be very, very flexible when you're looking for an internship or a job. And the reason for that is that getting the OPT, which our student here was mentioning, is the optional practical training visa, which allows you to work for a year after you graduate, right? So a lot of employers will consider students who are on OPT, but there are some who won't. So you have to be aware of that reality. The ones who won't consider students on OPT, we will discuss those with you. The ones who will consider students on OPT, we will discuss those at length with you as well. You will get to talk to them at the Career Expo. If you get a job with them for those 12 months, then you've gained really valuable experience in a newsroom here. We have found that a lot of international students do extremely well when they go back to their own country. There are some students we've had who decided right from the get-go that they don't want to apply for an OPT. They would much rather go back to their country and launch their careers, especially if they've had 5 years or more of experience. And I'll give you an example of 2 students from this year's class, one of whom was an MA Politics student and decided right at the beginning that she was not going to apply for an OPT. She went back to New Delhi and she has a job as a reporter with Mint. Another reporter who had several years of experience said exactly the same thing and went back and has a job with Reuters. All I want to stress is that the more flexible you are, the better your chances of getting a job. And we will help you with that process. You can come and talk to us. I also want to tell you a little bit about how we work with you throughout the year. We have a lot of sessions. These can be divided into Meet the Media sessions. We've had about 38 of those sessions already this year between September and now, in which we have hiring managers and editors from different newspapers, from different newsrooms come and talk to the students about their place of work, about their careers, and they talk to you about their internship programs. So right from the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Colorado Gazette, I'm just naming a few that I remember from the top of my head, but they will all be here to talk to you about their newsrooms and their experience and what they're looking for in prospective candidates. We also have a view from the trenches, which is students or graduates come back and talk to us, very often off the record, give us detailed descriptions of their experience out in the real world and what they've been doing either here or around the world. We have something called we have different skill sessions. So we talk to you about your how to fix your resumes. We talk to you about how to prepare for the Career Expo. We have mock interview sessions where we talk to you about how to prepare for an interview in terms of bringing your documents, your body language, how to answer tricky questions, and all of that, right? I'm actually holding one such session today. So for those of you who asked questions about part-timers, if you're going to be in the building on a Saturday, it's not as if you're not going to get any service from us. We will be here for you for such sessions. Then I also want to talk to you about what being a grad means. I can tell you from my personal experience that throughout my career, every single job that I have had, the lead has either come from being in this building, attending a session, or if I was looking at a particular newsroom and considering what to do, I have reached out and spoken with a grad about it. It's like being part of an extended family. You can pick up the phone, you can email any grad, and in most cases, they'll be happy to talk to you. They could give you a lead about a job, and if they don't have a lead about a job, they can at least help you connect with other students, other grads in, in a particular country or a particular newsroom who might be able to help you out. So you'll have a huge leg up if you're part of this extended family. I'll give you an example. I got an email from someone in London who was looking for someone to transcribe, and she said, do you know of anyone who's looking for a job here? And at that minute, I had no one, and I said, why don't you post the job on Job News? Job News is our password-protected site, which is only for Columbia students and graduates. That's where employers will post possible openings, right? We also post jobs there. So you have access lifelong to this site where lots of jobs are posted every single day. 2 days later, I got an email from someone who said, I've wrapped up my job in the US, I'm back in London, I want to get started. Is there anyone that you know who has something to get me started? So I connected the two of them, they're working together. So that's just an example of how we, at all times, will be helping you connect with people even after you've graduated from here. Then I wanted to talk to you about the Career Expo, but before I get to that, we can watch a little video.
I think, start off a little nervous, but, once you sit down and you can take it, you realize people are genuinely interested in, trying to get you to where you need to be after graduation.
I have been very impressed with how excited everybody is, how well prepared everyone is, good questions, good energy. It's been great.
I have ABC, About.com, The Katie Couric Show, The Nation, The Washington Post, and The Rap News. And I'm not done.
I mean, my role in this is really just to do my best to connect these people with where we do have job opportunities or could potentially at some point in the future. And just, not to let these kind of talented people slip through our fingers.
This guy told me that I have exactly what they want, and he's gonna offer me a job.
So our annual Career Expo, which is held in March, is the largest journalism job fair anywhere in the world. We bring only journalism employers to the Career Expo. We had 146 of them last year. And these are employers who come looking for people for internships as well as jobs. Some people say that you don't get jobs at job fairs. That's not entirely true. We have had offers at the Career Expo, but even if it is not at the expo, then following up with them soon after your graduation, you will be connected with them and you will be able to find jobs with them. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those now. Yes.
I guess I feel like a lot of the internships and jobs that have been mentioned are for students who have graduated. What about during the program? Like if you're enrolled and you want to work or have an internship while in school, like I'm interested in the part-time program, is that something that I can utilize as well?
Yes, sure. I mean, like I mentioned, for job news, we'll be posting jobs and internships all the time. For full-time students, it is not advisable to do an internship while you're at school. Your workload is really heavy, and you need to focus on that. So we would never advise you to do an internship while you're at school. It's different from a part-time student, of course.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm working at Mashable right now, and obviously these new kind of BuzzFeed, Mashable, all of those places are redefining the way journalism is working, but also redefining themselves and trying to establish themselves as authorities in news. But you do spend a lot of Mondays writing listicles about cat memes. So I guess what is your recommendation when you're trying to find careers basically to the people at the school in terms of going to like the New York Times, which is, you know, longtime authority, but kind of shrinking, versus these places where you might not have the ideal job right away, but they're changing the future?
Right, so your career choice will depend on what you want to do and how much experience you already have. Getting to the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times may be a great goal, but you're not going to get there unless you have experience elsewhere, right? So we would talk to you about your particular case, how many internships you've had, what kind of clips you have, and so on, and then talk to you about where you could realistically aim to apply and get in, right?
Perfect, thank you.
What do you recommend to somebody like me, which I'm obviously older, in terms of digital versus printed? Because the basic of journalism is still in the 19th century. I mean, you start, you print it. So what do you recommend? If you get a job, for instance, in a digital format like Mashable or the other ones, and then you spend there like about 6, 8, or probably a year, you get one the printed, then you're gonna have to.
Like I explained, we discuss each of you separately, right? Each of you come to meet us and talk to us about what you want to do, what skills you already have, what experience you have. So our advice would be based on that. There's no one bit of advice that we would give to everyone. So it depends on your case.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tanisha. What would you recommend for me, being that I currently work at BET Networks in a social media role, and I'm looking to expand as a multimedia journalist. And for the part-time program, I'm assuming that there's an internship that needs to be fulfilled, but I really kind of want to stay at my job and just expand there already.
Sure. So there's no requirement for an internship here. So we don't require you to do it. If you want to work while you're studying and are enrolled in the part-time program, that's perfectly fine. And once again, you come to us, you discuss what you want to do and which areas you're most interested in, and we can help you, discuss opportunities in different newsrooms. It'll depend entirely on you.
Got it. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Anusha? At least right now. Okay. If you want to stay in case they may, if you just want to say, I'll just have a few brief notes about the admissions process, and then we'll open it up to questions if you have anything for myself or Anusha. But again, one more plug, if you are on the live stream and you want to chat, have questions related to anything Anusha might have said or anything related to the admission process, you can chat right via the live stream, or if you're on Twitter at CJS Admissions with the hashtag CJS Chat. As hopefully many of you know, our application is certainly available, and hopefully many of you have begun that process or will begin very soon. The application is an online application and is on our website. As soon as you go to the admissions page, you'll see an orange bar that says apply. Click on that and you'll be set to go. The deadlines are approaching for the Master of Science, Master of Arts, PhD programs. The deadline is December 15th. For the dual degree with computer science, that is January 15th for anybody who might be interested in that program. That application is separate. It will be through the School of Engineering. But the application for the Journalism School MS, MA, PhD programs on our website, the deadline is December 15th. But don't worry, if you haven't started yet, you have plenty of time. Most everything that you have to submit with the application, you upload that directly. The essays, writing samples, your resume, those you would upload directly in the application, and once you submit it, we'll have those. For our programs, the requirements are very similar for many of them. College transcripts, 3 letters of recommendation, your resume, like I mentioned. All will also require an autobiographical, professional, or personal essay, autobiographical, personal, and then also a professional essay as well. If you're doing any of the Master of Science specializations, the data specialization, the investigative specialization, or the documentary specialization, those will require a separate essay as well. There's also a separate essay specifically for the Master of Science, and then one specific for the PhD program. You do have to submit 3 writing samples or clips, whether they're written clips or multimedia broadcast clips, we accept both. For the Master of Science and the Master of Arts program, that would be required, and again, you upload those directly through the application. It's a very simple process. The GRE is not required except for the PhD program. So for the Master of Arts, Master of Science, we do not require the GRE. For the PhD and the dual degree with computer science, it is required. For the Master of Science program, we also conduct a writing test. We get information to you about that after you would submit the application. So come after December 15th, we will get information to you about our writing test. We will offer those here in New York if you're local. If not, we will set you up with an alumni proctor in your area. If there is not an alumni proctor in your area, we will give you instructions on how to find your own proctor. So that information will be coming if you're applying to the Master of Science program. That'll be coming in the next couple weeks. So with all of those pieces, a lot of people ask, well, what are we looking for? What is going to make me an attractive candidate for admission? Number one, I think you have to be a good writer. That doesn't mean that you have to have 300 published works, won awards, and have gotten to that level, but I think of what it takes to be a journalist. You have all these facts, and how can you synthesize all of the facts that might be thrown at you and present them in a digestible, consumer-driven product that would be able to take everything and boil it down into something that the public can consume and understand. So, we just want to look at what you've written, what you've supplied to us in the application, and see if we can see that. You have to be able to think clearly and critically and be able to put your thoughts down. So, we'll just look for what we would consider to be people that are good writers. And then we'll also just look for, in what you submit, why you want to do this. As you heard from students, is what the type of structure of their classes are, and what the faculty mentioned, what they're looking for and what their classes are like. This isn't a program for somebody who is not sure what they want to do, have maybe tried various careers, or have majored in something as an undergraduate and all of a sudden had a dream last night that they want to be a journalist, and now they're going to apply and see what happens. This is something that we try to find people that want to take the field to maybe where it hasn't gone yet. We're looking to train the next generation of journalists. So we want people that are serious, committed, and dedicated to making a career out of this. So if that comes through in what you submit to us, that is what we'll look for as well. Like I said, there's no specific we don't require the GRE. There's no specific grade point average that you have to have, prerequisite classes as an undergrad, a specific experience level for the Master of Science. For the Master of Arts, you do have to have that professional experience behind you. But for the Master of Science, what we're going to look for is somebody who can write and somebody who's dedicated to making a career out of this, and hopefully helping us change the field and help it grow. So those are the things that we're going to look for. In terms of financial aid, then the other half, so we have the admission and the financial aid piece. I know somebody asked about financial aid earlier. That will be a separate application. That is available now as well. So if you've gone into the application, you might have seen that the scholarship application is also available. So it's there. It's a separate process. You would just fill that out and submit that. There's one application for the journalism school scholarships that we offer, and that would make you eligible for anything that we do offer. That is available now, but that deadline is February 1st. If you are a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, you also have to submit the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. That would not be available until January 1st. So you have to do that once the first of the year comes, and then make sure you submit both the FAFSA for the U.S. residents and then the scholarship application by February 1st. You can find on our website as well, that we have many other options for you. Certainly, we have graduate loans, which U.S. citizens, permanent residents would have access to. You can also see a list of outside scholarships and things that might be available to you with a separate application outside of the journalism school. The university has a payment plan, and you can also read about that. So there's a number of different finance areas that you can try to investigate, because that's certainly part of the process as well. I think planning for the finance piece is just as important as planning for the admission piece. I know a lot of people at this time of the year are worried about, am I going to get in? What do I need to supply? How can I write this essay? Those sorts of things. But also, it's also the time to think about, okay, financing this and applying for scholarships and what other outside resources there are. Searching for those and planning along those lines is, I think, also just important. So I want you to keep that in mind as well. So with the admission application available due December 15th, except for the dual degree with computer science, and then the scholarship application would be due February 1st. And I think a lot of our students do use a majority of those methods, whether it's loans and scholarships, outside scholarships, the payment plan. For most people, like I said, being part of a plan, most students will take advantage of all of that. So, it's a very diverse package that we can try to provide, but also I think coming in with some things on your end to diversify it as much as possible is important. Similarly with the admission application, having a diverse admission application is only going to be in your best interest as well in terms of showing us who you are, what you've done, and maybe the potential of what you can do. Those are just a quick, brief comments that I wanted to make related to that. Again, I'll open the floor up to questions. If anybody wants to know anything specifically, feel free to step up to the mic, and I will try to address those as they come up.
Brett, could you talk, especially for international students, talk about some of the options that are available for international students, whether with their home governments, possibilities for scholarship assistance here at the journalism school?
Yeah, like I said, with the scholarship application, every applicant, whether you're domestic, international, you're certainly eligible to apply, and we can award scholarships for every student, hopefully, that is able to apply. So domestic, international, everybody is eligible. If you have things related to Fulbrights, certainly explore those sorts of things with the Fulbright organization. And in your home countries, we have a lot of students that come in with things from their home country. So again, part of that whole plan and part of that process to making sure that the finance piece is there is us helping you as much as we can, but also going and looking in your home countries, what types of scholarship and what organizations might be there, and types of things that you might have that we may not know about that we can certainly assist with, but coming in with things that would just be an added bonus, I believe. So certainly investigating organizations that would sponsor students and scholarships to go abroad, that's something that I think some students may not think about right away, but searching for those opportunities, mostly on your own. We certainly will help as much as we can, and we will provide as much as we can internally, but doing some sorts of things that you can look wherever you may be from, and we have students around the world that come and bring funding with them. So that's always something we can try to explore with you and try to guide you and steer you to where you might be able to find those sorts of things, but always keep that in mind as another source as well. Somebody must have some questions. Okay. Sure, go right ahead, thanks.
Hi. I'm interested in the MS program, probably full-time, and I was reading about your anticipated scholarship and fellowship funding in the back of your book here. And I see that you're talking about 78% receiving funding potentially, and you've gotten a range of awards from $882 to $67,000 approximately. Can you tell me more about like a median value and approximately how many would receive it, and potentially the average debt load of your graduates?
So for the Master of Science, you said, is the
Yes.
program that you're interested in? Okay. So you might see there kind of what the average might be for the students. That should probably be listed there as well, I think. Or perhaps it might, if it's not, I mean, the average...
range.
Okay, so the average for the Master of Science student can be anywhere close to maybe $15,000. I would think $14,000 to $15,000 on average. So and that's what we tell people for planning purposes. So obviously that leaves a gap for what the overall cost might be versus what we can provide. So, that's part of that whole plan is, okay, I know for planning purposes, this is what I can expect. Our awards for scholarships are based on a number of different factors. Financial need, academic merit, then there's restrictions donors have put on. They've given the money, say, okay, I want my money to go to such and such an individual. So those are the things that we will look at in conjunction with the scholarship award. So when it's kind of all said and done, that's kind of what an average would be for the Master of Science student.
Okay, sorry, one follow-up.
Yes.
You also mentioned working with us to find opportunities and obviously bringing money in with us. Are you able to work with students during the application process or prior to arriving to find opportunities?
Sure, you can always
Yeah.
contact us and we would work with you and let you know where you can try to look for things and how we can help finance this. So it's nothing that you have to wait until you're physically admitted and, okay, now how am I going to approach this? Like I said, trying to get a plan in place as early as possible is extremely important. So yes, certainly contact us and we'd be happy to work with you and see what might work best in your situation and directions that we can point you in.
Hello.
How you doing?
I have a quick question about whether it's possible to apply to multiple programs. Like you mentioned the computer science dual degree. Is that separate from the investigative or sort of the other specialties for the MS?
Yeah, you would only be able to apply for one. So it's a separate application. You may only have one application. So whether it's to the dual degree with computer science, again, that application through the engineering school, so it's different. The application that we would have on our website, you would choose the Master of Science, full-time, part-time, Master of Arts, what subject area, or the PhD. So all of the other programs are just within our application, but the dual degree with computer science is separate through the engineering school. So if you want to ever talk about what program might be best based on what you're interested in, we can certainly do that. Just know the application deadline is coming up for our Master of Science, so we need to do that quickly, but we can certainly talk if you need to do that. But you would really choose one or the other. You couldn't really have an application for the engineering school, but then also have one for the Master of Science.
Would you be able to, just for the journalism school, like say you picked a specialty, would you then be able to transfer later on? Or are you sort of stuck with that for your year?
When you say transfer,
I mean, so
if
for
you're,
instance, from investigative to...
No, that's something you pick with the application. As in the time of application, the students are selected for that with their original admission application.
Hi, I have a couple of financial aid questions. I know some graduate programs, if you go part-time versus full-time, there is a cost difference. It ends up being more expensive for part-time because it's stretched over time. I know the structure of this program is a little bit different as far as like cost per unit type of a thing. I don't think that that's really the structure. It didn't seem to be that structure. So my first question is there really a difference between the cost? And then the second question is, in filling out financial aid forms, it asks like how many units do you anticipate taking per semester? And if I'm part-time, what is that? Because I don't know how to answer that question.
It is a little bit of a different structure because for the full-time year would be paying kind of a flat rate, but it is a different structure if you are going part-time.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe, if you're checking that, it might be 6 or minimum 6 to do that,
6
right? So for the part,
per
correct.
semester?
Correct.
Okay, great.
Correct.
Thank you.
Hi, I had a question about the writing samples on the application. So I know you said before that your primary concern is just the quality of writing and how well you think the student can portray that. But I was wondering, like, for example, if I had an article published in my college newspaper versus an article that I published online for a freelance publication or as a freelancer for a publication, would one or the other hold more weight, or is it really just only the quality of the writing?
I think first look at it from the standpoint of what puts my best foot forward. Which piece do I like? What do I think tells a better story? What conveys what I'm trying to say in that? So, for many people, there's no right or wrong sometimes, that I see. So I would just look at it as, okay, what piece best showcases my abilities? Whether it's coming from a student newspaper, something you've done on your own, something you may have done freelance. We understand people come from a lot of different backgrounds, so I think that's one way that you can show diversity, that shows, okay, I did something at this point of my undergraduate career perhaps, and then at the same time I'm doing this, or once I was done with my undergrad, I did this and here was a piece from that. So, I would stop short to say, do this one and not do this one, or vice versa. Just kind of looking at take a look at those pieces and see what you think your best work is. And, we're going to look at both. If you can show some diversity that shows, I've done this piece and that piece, worked for this publication, then I did something with the undergraduate here, then we can see that, okay, this person has somewhat of a diverse portfolio and they've done different things, and not all of the pieces that you submit are just from one place or the other. So I know that didn't answer your question because I didn't pick one or the other, but just look at your piece first and see which one you like best, because I think just hearing you both of those, certainly more than acceptable either case.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Hannah. Thanks so much for sharing your insights, and also to the students. So I'm particularly interested in the third semester documentary program that I'll certainly learn more about when I go next door. This may have been a better question for the faculty because it's a little bit more about the curriculum, but I have much more training in visual media than in print media, and I'm just wondering what resources there are to kind of merge the two, because it sounds like the curriculum is really strong and that it enables people to have this sort of eclectic background and pursue a lot of different talents simultaneously, but where do those kind of find convergence? Could that be in the thesis, or are professors available to help you find ways to kind of bring one medium in conversation with another?
Yeah, it's a combination. So there's definitely ways within the program, no matter what you're doing, to steer yourself a certain way and to cover things that are of most interest to you, where you may see your career headed in the future. I think the faculty are always very willing to work with students, from what I've heard. Work with students and, realizing this is a short program if you're going full-time, and you're only here to try to absorb as much as you can and move into a successful career. So whatever that successful career is that you see yourself, I think the faculty will help you get there. And if you say, hey, you may be given a particular beat in Brooklyn somewhere to find a story in this particular neighborhood. And you might have found a story where, I can tell the story this way using this media. And, as long as you explain and go over that with the faculty member and they say, go for it. I think a lot of them, have done that in the past. Say, sure, you want to do it this way? You think you can tell the story and put it together in a certain way that is an area that you see yourself heading towards? I think so. Because I think our faculty work more so as maybe mentors and news directors versus an instructor who's going to sit up there and lecture you and just tell you, do it this way, do it this way. Our classes are hands-on and you learn by doing. So whatever that way of doing is for you, and I think they're very open to that.
Thank you so much. Just a quick follow-up. Is it possible to do the part-time track and then also do the subsequent documentary semester?
It is possible.
It is.
It is possible, yes.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Monette, and I'll pick it up from absorbing as much as I can from you. I'm interested in the graduate course, and law. I know it's a separate application. Those are two separate applications, but I just want to know what percentage of the Columbia journalist students get into that kind of thing.
Yeah, so anybody who's interested in a dual degree, other than the one for computer science, that's just one application, but the dual degrees with the School of International and Public Affairs, religion, business, law, it's two separate applications. So you're applying to us essentially for our program and applying to them for their program. So you'd have to adhere to everything that they would require as well as what we would require. So it's definitely those programs for somebody who really wants to do those. So that's not going to apply for everybody, certainly. It could be a few, any given year, a handful that might want to do something like that. So those are definitely small populations, but those are there for people that want to do them. So in that case, if you're interested, I don't know if you've spoken with the law school, or if anybody's interested in the dual degrees, contacting that other school as well to learn about their side of the program and their application process, because you'll have to go through the same thing you're going through with us, with them.
But could you share a little experience with one student who did that? Like, how did that go for one student?
Specifically with the law school?
Yeah.
I would have to find for you. I mean, we can certainly do that. Off the top of my head, I would not be familiar with one, but somebody may, but I can certainly get info, but unless Dean Souders has some information she might be able to share with you, she may know somebody.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
We can certainly find somebody that you can talk with about that. But what I will say about the dual degree programs, and in particular law, for example, because the law degree is a 3-year degree, the journalism degree is a 10-month degree. Generally, students start at the law school, so they get that first year of torts classes and all those sometimes less interesting but extremely important things out of the way, and then they come over to the journalism school, and then they finish usually at the law school, so that they're then available both at the law school and at the J school for the hiring that goes on in that 3rd year.
Hi. I'm unsure whether I would be best for the MS program or the MA program. Is there someone specific I could talk to about that, or is that something you can speak to generally?
Yeah, I mean, if it's something you want to speak with somebody about, we can do that at any point. But, just in general, the Master of Science is the hands-on how to be a journalist. It will send you into the city to cover stories, to learn what it takes to be a hard news reporter and go out and cover stories and answer questions and put that together for perhaps a newscast or something like that, and perhaps investigate. The Master of Arts, so we have people coming into the Master of Science that come directly from undergraduate, people that have some journalism experience, maybe want to come back and realize, okay, I need some additional training. Career changers, people that have worked in another area for a period of time, but now have convinced us that they want to be journalists, so they come into the program. So it's a very eclectic group. The Master of Arts assumes you have those skills coming in. You can go out, you can cover a story, you can put it together, no problem. I've done it for perhaps a number of years. I don't need the training on how to be a journalist. I want to go back out into the field, be a journalist in one of those 4 particular subject areas, arts, business, politics, or science. So you're learning that subject area, not so much the skills of interviewing and the foundations of what it takes to be a journalist. So, and usually we get people in the MA from 3 up to 15 years of professional experience. Now that's not collegiate experience. So I worked at my college newspaper for all 4 years or something like that. This is good professional journalism experience.
Right. Perhaps an argument in favor of going right from undergrad into journalism. I do have a job as an editor, but I land somewhere in between what you just described. I do lack some of the fundamentals. I have been writing stories for a few years, and sometimes I wish I could just, get like a crash course in reporting, because I think it would really help. But at this point, I might be beyond that. So you guys should do that, though.
And if it's something additional you want to talk with us, certainly we can explore that some more.
The clips in another language, we submit, for example, you have to translate them, but we can submit the link, or because if they are published in a publication and are in my case in Catalan, so I don't submit the clip, the link, I submit directly like a Word with a translation. No, I submit the link, no?
So everything needs to be submitted in English first. So if it's a written clip, we would definitely need
So I translate it
English.
and I put the link too. Not you have to see where publication and the whole thing. No?
Well, if it's a written piece?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if it's a written piece, you can put the link. There's really nowhere on, to upload a link on that particular part. So if you put it with the writing sample itself, that's fine. Even if it's just written, we can copy and paste and take a look at the original if need be. In the multimedia clips section of the application, there is a link there or a button there to upload a link. So you can do it there, but it would also be in the written page, so you don't have to do it both places. But it has to definitely be in English, for sure. But so if you have the English version and want to put the link to where it is in in the original language, that would work just fine.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Hi. How would you apply for dorming?
So we'll get information to you about housing after the application process, so it's nothing you need to do now. Assuming you would be admitted, we would get information to you with your admission application about the housing process and how to apply for housing. We do have a housing liaison here in the journalism school that can help you. On-campus housing is limited. I will tell you that. It is limited. Those farthest away, international students, would get first dibs at that. So the closer you are to New York, the less optimistic I'll be. But I don't know if you're from the area at all or familiar, you know, as you might be able to see through the beautiful new windows here in the World Room, that there's a lot of opportunities in the nearby neighborhood. So all students are asked to join the new student Facebook group as well. So, you know, those conversations come up very quickly with new students that are coming. And then we also give you some resources that you can look for things, you know, rental units outside of just what we have on campus. So once you're admitted, we get that information to you and we'll work with you. I haven't heard anybody yet that hasn't been able to attend just because they couldn't find somewhere to live. So we'll help you. We'll get you there.
Thank you.
Hi. So it sounds like you have sort of a holistic admissions process. I've seen that you're anticipating a yield of like 240 students next year. How many MS students apply and how many do you accept?
Typically for the Master of Science, we would have, I'd say give or take around 700, 700 applicants, and we may admit, you know, fewer than half of those, or right around there.
So approximately 50%?
I would say approximately there. We'll see year by year. That's going to change. So this year, we're hoping that it's a robust year, which could mean something different in terms of percentages, but we'll see. But that's kind of, again, what historically it's been, at least in recent years. Any final questions? Do we have one more? Maybe? As she's come, just remember, we're always here. The application deadline coming up before December 15th. So if you want to get in contact with us, you can always email us, certainly. But one final question?
Yes, so for the Master of Arts, you do have to be specialized in the field as a writer, but I'm a little bit confused because do you have to have that niche already as your qualification, or can you have 5 years experience, say, in one aspect of writing and you want to transition it into another vehicle?
We see both. We see people that have been working in that particular area that they want to, but that's not a hard and fast requirement. If you know you want to be an arts reporter, we have people that have been working in that now want to come back and get that credential, but that's not a 100% hard and fast rule.
So in my specific case, I have a lot of experience writing about art, but then the practical aspect is really appealing with, say, like a business angle, or I mean, when you go into the specialization, how much do they expect that you have in that particular category?
Yeah, I mean, we'll teach you. You know, that's why you're here. We'll teach you that particular subject. You know, you might have a little different background if you're coming in with that, but again, it's not 100% hard and fast that you have to. With the specific essay that you have to provide with your application, that's kind of your chance to say, you know, I've done this, maybe not in that same area, but this is why I want to go into this particular area now. And then, you know, we don't do interviews with the application, so again, that's kind of your chance to talk to the committee and say, okay, this is why I want to pursue this. So we can have an idea as to, okay, you know, she might not have the background in that particular area, but we see why she's interested in this, maybe what she wants to do or what she has or hasn't done related to that, and then that'll give the admissions committee a good sense of who you are and why you want to pursue this a little bit further.
Can I ask one last question about that then?
Okay,
about
sure.
the interview component?
Yeah.
So there's no interview for admissions, but do you do any kind of informational interviews specific to each department, or is this the full session?
No, we don't do any sort of interviews where we meet with anybody or anything like that. No. Again, I always tell people, those essays that you provide, that's your chance to tell us about yourself or any career aspirations and what areas you've been in or want to go into. So that essentially works or functions as somewhat of the interview process.
I'm just going to come back to one of the questions that you had. Just as an example, Jonathan Weiner, who is one of the subject area professors for the science journalism MA program, was an English major in college. we do not expect that you're going to have that subject area expertise or even necessarily training in that area. You might have been an English major or a history major in college, but you're interested in business reporting. You might have been a music major in college and become interested in political reporting. Or just because of the way things have gone in your career, you've been working in political reporting and really want to get training in that area. The distinction that you really want to make when you're thinking about MS versus MA is that we expect you to already be trained as a reporter and writer, so that you will have acquired the skills that we teach you in the MS degree if you're going to apply to the MA degree. That's what we're looking for.
Just a quick question. When is the acceptance window, like after we apply? Like when do you typically, is it a couple months or?
Yeah, all decisions should go out by the middle of March. Yes, so you would have the decision at that time.
Hi. Hello, I do not have a question. I am the director of the radio program. My name is Carrie Donahue. I just have to leave, so I wanted to introduce myself in case any of you would like to be in touch with me about questions of the radio program. For many of you, you won't, it's already mentioned, but you won't really know that you like public radio, or maybe you're not a listener regularly now, although I hope you're all checking out Serial, because it's doing a big thing, and it's about to end. So if you haven't listened to it, you've got about 2 more weeks to get caught up. Yeah, one of the grads from the school is mentioned repeatedly in Dana Chivas in that program. So you will do an audio boot camp in August when you come here. You'll have some audio training. We hope that sparks a bunch of interest. We have, like all of the other programs here at Columbia, there's a lot of, we teach you to be really good journalists. I'm also a grad, though, of the program, so I just wanted to add something I don't think we've hit upon yet, which is something Anusha mentioned about the network of Columbia grads that you'll be able to interact with, but also the friends that you make at this school will be friends for a long time, but also really great excuse me, work colleagues. So I met some of my closest friends when I was a student here, and they have had really amazing careers, and now I feel like there's just this great, I mean, it's really fun to watch their careers grow, but also they're, I can call on them at any time. So I think that's a really important thing when you're considering grad school. It's a little different than when you considered your undergrad. That wasn't necessarily something you were looking for. Grad school is different, and this is a great place. You'll meet some amazing, amazing people in your classes as well. So thanks.
Sure.
Oh, and KLD15 at columbia.edu. I'm on the website. So.
Thanks, Carrie. And the admissions office email, should you have questions moving forward with admission application, financial aid application, it's admissions@jrn.columbia.edu. Again, admissions@jrn.columbia.edu. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Thank you all for watching who are home watching the live stream. We appreciate your participation as well. Again, if anybody here in the room is interested, the Doc Fest, which is celebrating our documentary students and their work, is happening directly down the hall, so you're more than welcome to go and take a look at some of that, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.